Hello, everybody. So I am Zoe. I am the seventh grade girls leader here, if you haven't met me already before. And I'm going to be continuing our series with you. So Jason kicked us off with it last week. Does anybody remember any main takeaways? What the message was about? I'm assuming at least a handful of you were here last week. So, yep.
How to be with somebody when they are grieving.
Exactly, you nailed it. So, being with someone when they're hurting. Now, being with someone when they're hurting is a really big need, right? Like, everybody needs someone to listen to them and be there, be a shoulder to cry on. And that's what I'm going to be talking about a little bit more, is just how to be with people when they are in need. Now, that can be a practical need, an emotional need. People have needs of all kinds. Now, has anyone ever experienced someone asking them for a lot of favors and you are just like, no, I don't want to help you. Sorry, I'm going to focus on myself instead. You don't have to raise your hand, but I'm sure we've all been there once or twice. I am there all the time with my sisters. So I'm the youngest of four girls. So I've been a little emotionally, beaten down by them growing up. I was the annoying little sister, and they just didn't really want anything to do with me until I hit 12 or 13, and they realized that I could do everything they wanted because they could just control me by asking me to do everything. So they would ask me to go get them food, go walk the dog, help them with this, clean their house sit, dog sit, and the list went on and on. And as I got older, I kind of just realized I don't need to help you all the time. I can say no. And I became a little selfish. I hesitated and I decided to put my wants above their needs, even when I was able to help them. So I mentioned some of my sister's needs, and that was house sitting, dog sitting. Those are pretty specific. Can you guys think of more general needs that maybe almost everybody has? I'm going to give you guys a minute as a table. There should be a piece of paper on your table, and if not, just use your phones. You can just make a list of needs that you can think of that you have, your family member, whatever. But I'll give you guys a minute to do that. Okay, so does anyone have anything specific they'd like to share? Just some needs that they had thought of? Yeah? Food? Okay. So I'm hearing a lot of food. Anybody else? Yeah? Sorry, say that again? Okay. Yeah? Community with others. Shelter? Okay, so there's some more emotional ones, but then there's some really basic ones like food and shelter that literally everybody needs, especially in Wisconsin in winter. I think we can all agree we really need shelter right now, right? So, food though. That was the main one that came to my mind. Not only because everyone needs food, but because food is delicious and who doesn't want to have food all the time. But food is something that God provides for us every day, even though we don't really see it that way all the time. I don't always take time out of my day to actively think, God provided this food in front of me. I think about it of, oh, I went to the grocery store and picked up this bag of apples. But when we really think about it, God's always providing those things for us. And not only is he providing those things for us, but he's also using other people to provide those things. And in the verse we're going to talk about here in a second, 1 Kings, it's chapter 17, verses 8 through 16. We see a story of Elijah and a widow, and it's a story about food, and I'm going to have you guys read about it, but we can just see throughout the verses how God provides for us and how he uses other people to do so. So take another few minutes as a group. I would like you all, just someone bring it up on your phone. Again, it's chapter 17 of 1 Kings, verses 8 through 16. and just pass your phone around, each reading one verse at a time. And once you guys are finished up reading, we can discuss it a bit more. So you guys can go ahead. Okay, so I think most of you have gotten at least most of the way through the passage, but just to summarize, God sent Elijah to go and receive food from a widow who didn't really have food for herself and her family. And I think, too, like in the widow's position, wouldn't you be really confused why this random man is coming up to you and like asking you for food and telling you how your oil will not run dry? You'd be like, you're crazy. I'm running out of food. I'm starving. I don't know what you're talking about. But he guides her to still make the food, telling her what the Lord said about it not running dry. She followed his guidance, and sure enough, just as the Lord had said, it didn't run dry. She was able to provide for herself, her son, Elijah, everybody. And this, again, it speaks to how God provides for us, but it really, on a larger scale, speaks to how he uses everybody in our lives to provide for us every single day, and how he uses us to provide for other people. Not only did he use Elijah to go to the woman and, in a roundabout way, provide this food, but he also used the woman to provide for Elijah. It was just this big circle of provision for one another. Now, God calls us to do this every single day, right? Like, we're called to serve others. That's throughout the Bible. We are told to love our neighbor. We're told to serve. That's a big part of being Christian. And being called to serve others means putting their needs above our wants sometimes. Again, this woman was completely willing to help Elijah even though she didn't have anything, and she just trusted that his word was true. So in the next verse I'd like to share with you guys, it's Matthew 25:40, and it's up on the screens. But it says, "The king will reply, 'Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me.'" So this might be a little bit confusing upon first read. I know it's only one verse, but it's basically just Jesus saying, whatever you do for someone, whether that's someone you know super well and you really like them and get along, maybe it's someone you've never even met before, maybe it's someone you just really don't like. I mean, we all have somebody that we just don't get along with, if not more than one person. And just whatever you do for that person, though, you're also doing for God. So when you're serving, just as God has called us to serve, we are serving God through that. And again, even going back to Kings, Elijah doing that was for God. The woman who didn't even realize that she was serving Elijah, it was still serving God in this roundabout way because we're following his commandment. Now, looking at the world, there's a lot of things that we need to focus on, right? That people need serving and people have these needs. And I think we need to look at the world and figure out how we can contribute to other people's needs and how we can create shalom. Who here has heard the word shalom before? Okay, a few hands. So to refresh, and also to those who haven't heard it before, shalom is a Hebrew word that means peace, wholeness, harmony, and part of all those things is balance. We don't have a whole lot of balance in the world. I'm sure, most of us are on social media, if not all of us, and we're seeing the news with the war. We see things every day with people on the streets. They don't have homes to go to, they don't have food provided for them, and there's just this complete imbalance of here we are, we're able to gather in a church, we go to school every day and have that access to education, we have ready access to food, and then there's the people who don't know when their next meal is. They don't know where they're going to sleep that night. They don't know where they're going to get warmth. If you think about living in Wisconsin, I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but I haven't had to think this winter about where I was going to warm up. Like, I have heat in my house. There's heat in the church. There's heat in my school. It's never been a question, but there's plenty of people out there who have to wonder every night where they're going to go to keep warm. So how can we bring a little bit more balance to the world? There's all these scary things going on all the time. So how can we bring that peace, and how can we be stewards of faith and follow God's commandment for us and help other people? So I'd like you guys to refer back to the list from earlier and go down through all of the needs and think of a few ways you can maybe create that shalom and fulfill those needs that you've listed. So I'll give you guys another few minutes as a group to do that. Okay, so you guys should have had some time, right, to go over these needs. Does anyone have any specific things? Or how about we start with food? A lot of you guys mentioned food earlier as a need. Did anyone think of ways to go out in the community and fulfill that need? Yeah. Donating food? Does anyone else have needs that they thought of to fulfill and ways to do it? How about how you can give to the homeless? Did you guys think of anything like that? Yeah? Okay, Isaac. Donating blankets. Yeah, that's something I hadn't thought of before, but that could really make like a huge difference to someone who doesn't have the access to that. And that's another thing that we like really take for granted is like personal care products, like even hair. Like that's just something we have access to every day. It's something we mostly haven't had to think about growing up, but there's people who are out there who haven't even known what it's been like to have like easy access to that. Does anyone else have any specific things off of the needs and how to fulfill them? So this is a really big problem, like people in need. And even on a smaller scale, like day to day, people have needs. I mean, everyone in this room has needs to be fulfilled every day that we need other people to help us with, especially like emotional. We need someone out there to care for us. That was something that a lot of middle schoolers had mentioned, just having someone to be like a support system. That's a big need that maybe we kind of neglect sometimes because we focus on the bigger things. But it's a big problem worldwide. There's always needs across the globe. Again, going back to all of the scary war stuff going on right now, like there's so many people in need who are fleeing their country, who are without homes right now, who don't have a safe place to go. And that's something that we're not experiencing here. And it's something to think about every day and know that there's something we can be doing, either small or further away. So to just break down the steps more of how we can serve other people and fulfill their needs, the first step would just be starting small. So look at your family, look at your school. I can almost guarantee you have someone in your family who's like super stressed out all the time and never has time to get everything done, and you can help them with something. Just like, as much as I don't like it, sometimes I have to help my sisters with things that I don't really care about, but it helps them and it makes their day a lot better. Or maybe there's someone at your school, maybe there's someone who's really having a hard time with getting homework done or just not understanding material, and maybe you are really great at math or English or something, and you're able to help them through those problems. Those are little things you can do with people you see every single day. The next step would be identifying needs in your community and your ministry. So in the community, I mean, we already mentioned some things. You could donate blankets to the homeless. You could donate food to a food pantry. You could volunteer at a soup kitchen. There's lots of things you can do out in the community. And then also through ministry. I feel like I know a lot of you guys have served before, and that's how I ended up here, as I started serving in youth ministry when I was a student, and then I became a leader afterwards. So that's something you can do, or you could serve as a greeter every Sunday, and the list just goes on and on. There's always needs in ministry to be serving and getting out there and showing the love of Christ. And then there's also ways to combine the two. So someone had mentioned earlier in the first message that there's the second Saturday opportunity here where you go out as a church and serve in the community. So that's a really cool way to bring it together and show others what our church is about, that we go out, we help people, we serve, and we care about others. And then lastly, it's just to bring your own strengths. I think that it's really hard sometimes to think about your own strengths. Like, I don't think everyone realizes that they even have strengths to begin with. It's easy to fall into that trap of just saying that you don't have like a specific talent, but everybody has something to bring to the table. It can be a hobby, it can be a talent, a strength, so on. Maybe your strength is listening. So maybe it'd be really great for you to go serve somewhere where they really need company, like a senior center, where they can get really lonely and they just need someone to talk to. Or again, if you're a tutor, that's a really great way to help someone if you're good at tutoring. The list goes on and on. Maybe you're good at cooking or baking. You could bake something for a bake sale and sell it for raising money for charity. You could cook meals for someone who's maybe having a hard time getting around. Maybe they just had surgery and aren't able to make their own meals. Maybe you're really great at drawing and you draw someone a picture to make their day a little bit brighter. I think there's little ways every day we can make someone's day brighter and not even realize that we're just doing it because we enjoy it anyway, and then you can still bring it to someone else and do many positive things and make serving a fun thing for yourself. So there's lots of just different ways you can get out into the community, but most importantly, it's just knowing that it's serving through God, it's loving God, and showing love for your neighbor through following his commandment for us. So one more thing I want to leave you guys with before heading off to small group is just maybe talk with your small group leader and think about ways you guys can all get into the community together. Like I said, with church, you could go out into Second Saturday with your small group, or maybe you want to get out into the community in other ways. Or there's also the mission trip coming up. I know that some of you might already be signed up for that or thinking about it, but that's a really great way to serve as well. When I went on a mission trip, it was it wasn't always the easiest experience, but it was really great to get out that way and see the world outside of, Waukesha, where I'm like super blessed every day and go and see people who don't have access to the same things that I do. So I just would like to say a quick word of prayer, and then I'll send you guys to small groups. So if you can bow your heads. Dear God, I thank you for this chance to gather and just to talk about your word and what your plans are for us, God. I pray that we can just go out into the world and know that we're following your plan by serving others and your commandments, and that we can show love for others and for you every single day by fulfilling their needs, whether that's a family member or other people in life. I pray that we can just head into this week knowing that and actively be looking for ways we can help others. I pray that we have a great time in small groups, and in your name we pray, amen.